All right, welcome to another episode of NFL Outdated Cover 2 series. This episode, we are talking about the New Orleans Saints, and I am joined by Trace Girouard, content creator and producer for Chat Sports and host of Redacted Radio. How are you doing?
Doing good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and this is a great time to talk Saints. I'm sure at the end of last season, it didn't end how you thought it would, but things are really turning up for the Saints, aren't they?
Yeah. So, I mean, let's kind of take it back to last season. We finished off with that 9-8 record. Considering what we were working with, like in all honesty, not that bad. You have to consider the fact that we had, I think it was 50 something different starters throughout the season. I can't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but we went through so many different leaps and hurdles of a bunch of players getting hurt, a bunch of people missing because of COVID and all these other things. And so we managed to still just be on the cusp of the playoffs and get knocked out because, of course, the Rams had to screw us over again. Thanks for that. But, we get knocked out, whatever. We don't make it. Personally, I didn't hate it. I didn't think we would make a run or anything. So it's like, oh, well, it's okay with me. But now here we are. Sean Payton's gone. That's a hit. We don't know what's going on with Jameis Winston. The whole Deshaun Watson stuff this offseason happens. I mean, it's just kind of a crazy offseason. And then now it's molding and taking form of, okay, now here's where we're going. Here's the path that this new leadership and this new front office is working towards with under the new Dennis Allen regime. And it's a really exciting time to be a Saints fan right now.
Yeah, and you mentioned the way the season ended, and it is interesting because I'm a Bears fan, and a couple years, it feels like a lifetime ago now, but a couple years ago they snuck into the playoffs, and I believe it was the Saints that just destroyed them, and they had no business being in the playoffs, and sometimes it's better. If you don't know where you're going as a franchise, it's better to not make the playoffs and have just a better opportunity to kind of grow your team. And
like you got to kind of look at it realistically. As a fan, of course you want to make the playoffs and you want to succeed and you want to make it to the Super Bowl and have the upset games, but you got to look at it realistically. And under Trevor Siemian and Taysom Hill at quarterback and maybe Ian Book, if that was ever going to happen again, that wasn't going to happen. It wasn't. The Rams were a significantly better team. The Buccaneers were a significantly better team. And the Packers were a better team. The Niners were all of them were better teams than the Saints. And that's okay. We were in a bad spot with a weird transition out of our first year removed from Drew Brees, excuse me. Now we had the Jameis Winston thing rolling. A quarter or about halfway through the season, he tears his ACL, and that stinks because he was on such a high trajectory. So it's like, what could have happened there? But like you said, it's kind of refreshing. We didn't make the playoffs, so realistic. We got a better draft pick. We didn't have to. We had a little bit lower of a draft pick, so we could snag Trevor Penning and maybe move up to get that Chris Olave. Whenever we made that trade with the Eagles, at first I was like, why? Like I'm all for getting people now, but next year and the year after, you got to think about those draft picks and stuff because I value draft picks a lot personally. But at the end of the day, I mean, you came out with your top wide receiver and your top offensive tackle target. That's obviously it worked. So you can't really complain.
Yeah, I tell you what, I mean, this team to do what they did, I believe it was a record for amount of players that they used in the season. And it is just crazy to think of, what they did with less, and to get on the cusp of the playoffs and not make it, it's just crazy. But with kind of what they've done with the draft here, retooling. I mean, they did a lot of they have a lot of pieces here. Talk about the additions of obviously Chris Olave, Trevor Penning, and some of those other players as well.
Yeah, so Chris Olave is obviously a great person to get. He was a bona fide stud at Ohio State. And something that I actually thought was kind of interesting. Some people are like, oh man, Jameson Williams, that could have been a great pick or could have been a great fit as well. But let's go back to a couple years ago when Jameson Williams was at Ohio State and he was competing with Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. Two of them stayed. One of them got run out. That should say something. And that's something that obviously it was college, it's competition, whatever. Ohio State and Bama, they're always loaded at those positions. But
So,
worth mentioning, in my opinion.
I would say for my Friesen for NFC North podcast,
Mhm.
so you maybe wouldn't be as high on him for the Lions then.
Well, so it's not that I'm not high on him for the Lions. I think that he's a great fit. And, personally, I think the Lions could use all of the offensive help that they can get. So
Yep.
obviously it's a good fit and it works out well. I just think that if you look at it from a perspective of which one is going to be in a better spot and which one is probably going to be, in a better position right now, you have to understand it's Chris Olave. Like that's just without, really debate, in my opinion. I mean, Jared Goff, he's all right. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I don't think Detroit isn't as complete of a team, and without a complete team, you can't have just the quarterback and just Amon St. Brown and I know I'm messing up the name, but St. Brown and Jameson Williams catching passes. Like that's you have to have the run game going. You have to have the line getting help. You got to have the defense, stepping up and helping out. So this is why I think that this draft pick of getting Chris Olave and Trevor Penning was such a good move, because it is already a complete team, and it just helps, further strengthen that even for the future and stuff, which is, let's look at the Saints wide receiver depth chart last year of Lil Jordan Humphreys, Marquez Callaway, Michael Thomas, who obviously missed all of last season. You had Traquan Smith, who's great. Don't get me wrong, but they are not wide receiver 1, 2, and they're not that fit yet. And I'm not saying that they can't be, but not right now. And Michael Thomas, he is an obvious wide receiver 1. Jarvis Landry, he can definitely be a wide receiver 2. And if Michael Thomas, for whatever reason, gets delayed or can't play or whatever, Jarvis can step up and take the load of being a wide receiver 1, in my opinion, for, however long it is, because just how great he is.
Yeah, I mean, so talk about like the fantasy football implications when you look at this wide receiver core. I mean, Jarvis Landry coming in, is Chris Olave fantasy relevant? Number 2, and then is Michael Thomas really going to be fully healthy for this season?
So for Michael Thomas, he's wide receiver 1. I'm gonna say he's gonna be good to go. I obviously I don't have like inside sources or anything, but from what I've seen on Twitter, what I've seen on his Instagram, what I've seen on social media, and I just want to say this, I feel like we should be looking into player social media just as much as like beat writers' tweets and stuff, because that tells more of a story than any insider, any reporter will ever have. And so that's just my personal opinion on it. But we've already seen Michael Thomas and Chris Olave working out together, days after the draft. So in my opinion, I'm not going to say 100% yes, he is ready to go week 1. But if I had to place a bet, I would say yeah, he's ready to go. He's obviously had some time to heal. There was the weird stuff going on with him in the front office last season, which was, I don't really know what to make of all that. It seems like it all worked out. But, and you could honestly, I hate to say, you could maybe say, Sean Payton, maybe it had something to do with that. Now we're under new regime, under new leadership and stuff. So it's like, let's let it ride. Let's let it go and stuff. So I think that Michael Thomas is a fantasy receiver. He's definitely worth picking up early. I would say, because it's pretty loaded. I don't think I would take him early, though, in a fantasy draft, if I'm being honest. If I had to take one, I would actually personally go either Jarvis Landry or Chris Olave over Michael Thomas, just because of Landry's yards after catch ability. And Olave is just the deep threat, and Jameis Winston loves to throw the ball downfield, and Chris Olave is going to be the field stretcher. So that's just my opinion on it. This
absolutely has to be the best wide receiver core that they've had, right?
Oh, yes. Oh, in I would say in recent years, it kind of reminds me of the Super Bowl team-ish / few years afterwards, when that kind of some of those guys were still carrying over. And I mean, you look back on the Super Bowl team of Marquise Colston, which number 12, Chris Olave is number 12. That's kind of cool in my opinion. But then you had Robert Meacham, and you had Devery Henderson, and those guys that were just absolute dogs, and they were doing really, really good things. And Drew Brees was in the prime of his career of being able to, get the ball downfield and move the ball effectively and be a good, field manager and game, football player. And he just was able to make it work really, really well. And so I would say that this is 100% one of the better wide receiver cores we've had in recent years. And the idea and speculation of maybe adding OBJ, I don't think we need him. Like, we're good, honestly, if you ask me. But like, week 8, week 9 rolls around, and we actually could make a run, and he still hadn't been signed. Why not? If we have a few extra salary cap dollars, why not? He knows how to win.
Well, yeah, and especially we don't know when he's going to be back, when he's going to
No.
be healthy,
Yeah.
and you just don't know. I mean, a big part I think of that Cleveland, you know, issue was mainly Baker as well.
Yeah.
But it would be interesting to see how he would fit in,
Mhm.
with some of these players, even Michael Thomas.
Yeah. No, and I think it would be really, really cool because I think just from a culture aspect, it would bring a lot of excitement, not just to the fan base, but to him and to the team as well. Because,
Mhm.
with Odell Beckham Jr.'s drama and attitude and all of his, off-field nonsense, you also get somebody who brings a lot of swagger, who brings a lot of fun, and who brings a lot of, game-changing ability to the field. And so, I mean, just from a perspective of like, he knows how to ball out when he needs to. He will take the reins if he needs to, and he can always be a reliable, downfield target if you want to get a little bit more of a vertical game going. I still don't hate it, but it's also like the do you really need him kind of thing.
Right. Well, speaking someone that obviously was a franchise changer. You talked about him, Drew Brees.
Mhm.
What was it, like, kind of
Ah,
saying goodbye to him? And
that sucked.
he,
It sucked.
but he wasn't really himself the last year.
No,
Yeah.
no. So I vividly can put myself back into the living room of my buddy's house, watching that game of them losing and just being like, he's gone. Like that I can't believe that's how it ends. Because, and even worse, I can put myself back into the NFC Championship game against the Rams for the no call, because that was the year.
Mhm.
I kid you not. I vividly remember sitting there and thinking, it oh my gosh, it's not going to happen. If it didn't happen this year, it's not going to happen with him. Like it's not going to get a second one. Like this team was so set up and so perfectly ready to go and had so much, like, it was the year and it didn't happen. And blah, whatever. Can't really get upset about it. But saying goodbye to Drew Brees, I was like, it sucks. But he wasn't, like you said, he wasn't the same. He wasn't the Drew that I became a Saints fan watching, and I became like, I mean, I started watching football when I was like 8 or 9 and started watching Drew Brees, and oh my gosh, fell in love. And now I'm a diehard Saints fan, and it sucks seeing him go, but it was also like,
Mhm.
that's not the same guy that I watched playing and watched me win a Super Bowl.
Absolutely. Well, I am actually a Bears fan, but I'm living in Wisconsin,
Mm-hmm.
and listening to talk radio here. There was the question of, and we don't know yet, if this was Giannis's only title with the Bucks, would fans be upset? When you look at the career, so that's one question. So
Mm-hmm.
then, looking back on the Drew Brees era, I mean, he obviously, like, took the Saints up a notch. A lot of it was Sean Payton
Yeah.
as well,
Yeah.
but. Are you disappointed at some of those missed opportunities because they only had the one title, or are you celebrating that one title just as much?
So don't get me wrong, it is a celebration more than anything. It is the rebirth and 100% rejuvenation of a damn proud city and a damn proud state. I'm from Texas. I'm from Dallas. I've never lived in Louisiana. I have a lot of family ties to the Louisiana area, though. So, I know how proud and how great the people of Louisiana are, and how much pride they take in their sports teams, especially the LSU Tigers and the New Orleans Saints, and now more recently the Pelicans, because they're starting to find some success. But anyway, it was one of those kind of things of, it was great. I like the Super Bowl. It brought life back to the city, and it was phenomenal. But there was missed opportunities. There was that. I mean, like I said, the 2018 or 2019 no call game. Like, that was it. That was just
Mhm,
such a,
mhm.
like, and you look back and it's, everyone's like, oh, it was the no call is why we lost the game. And yeah, sure. But in my personal opinion, and as a fan and as a person who likes to talk football realistically, they shouldn't have been put themselves in that position. They shouldn't have had to be in the position of, we have to drive the ball downfield to go win. We have to do it, and we have to go win right now. Like, should have been up by a score or two at that point if you really wanted to, be comfortable and solidify you were going to the Super Bowl. And so, missed opportunity, absolutely. It sucks, but you can't help but celebrate the Super Bowl that we have, because it really was something amazing. And, still kind of get the after effects of it, because it's still a really proud and really exciting team to, watch and root for and stuff.
Absolutely. And we talk about the missed opportunities. How much of that was on Sean Payton, and then, what has it been like to kind of transition away from him now?
So some of that I would say definitely Sean Payton. You had the I can't remember what year off the top of my head. The year of the suspension with all of
Mhm.
the bounty gates and stuff. And
Mhm.
so obviously that is a missed opportunity in itself because that's a year that he wasn't there. So that's an obvious one of should have been there. Damn it. Oh well. Still, I think as did his due diligence and did his service of being the coach of the New Orleans Saints for the years he was the coach. And yeah, missed opportunities for sure here and there. There's some playoff games that, dang it, I wish I could have back. I wish I could have the beast mode run back. I really do. I wish I could have the
Mm.
49ers beating us in the divisional round, I believe, the year after that. And yeah, it just, I mean, I remember Jimmy Graham scoring a touchdown with like 2 minutes left, and then they go and drive down. I was like, what? Like how? Like how did that happen? How did we let that happen? It's just, definitely missed opportunities and stuff. But again, you can't say as a Saints fan without Sean Payton and without what Drew Brees did that we would be in the position we are. And so, obviously there is the dang, that sucks, he's gone, and the darn, there was some of those, I wish we could have had it. But at the end of the day, they built what we have now, which is, something incredible. And I think as all of Who Dat Nation can, be proud and be thankful for what he did in his tenure.
There are a lot of franchises that would want to be in the Saints,
Mm-hmm.
position to have that opportunity year after year,
Mm-hmm.
with the players and with Sean Payton. So,
Yeah.
but looking forward now, what are you expecting from Dennis Allen as the head coach?
So I hate to say it, I have some pretty high expectations. I know there's very big shoes to fill. I know that there's a very big standard that Saints fans have, or a very high standard, excuse me. I will say though, there's high expectations. The roster is in my opinion, and I could be called out, and feel free to call me out. I think it's a win now, Super Bowl ready playoff roster. I'm not saying that they're going to go win the Super Bowl. I'm not saying that they should be a play by no means, but you get them in the playoffs. They have enough veteran presence that knows how to win in the postseason and knows how to get, put their nose down and get it done. That I think that you could see a realistic playoff run. Playoffs is an absolute expectation for me. I think if you don't make the play, I'm not saying win the division. The Bucs are still going to be a tough team where they play us tough every year. Unfortunately, they can't beat us, but that's, a different story.
Mm-hmm.
But, they're going to play you tough, and I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't win the division. I mean, they're a great team. You can't disregard that. But at the end of the day, I also think that's a wild card team 100%. I mean, who has gotten significantly better in the NFC? I hate to say it, but not very many teams in the NFC have made strides to get a lot better. A lot of them have stayed the same, which is, still good, but they haven't gotten a lot better.
Yeah, and when you look at the Saints, who's going to be the offensive coordinator that's going to be really making the calls? Is Dennis Allen's the defensive guy?
Yeah, so he's the defensive guy. So Pete Carmichael, offensive coordinator, he's going to be calling all the offensive plays. And Sean Payton obviously was the play caller, and it was his hands on the offense at all times. And so I think it's actually going to be a kind of a cool thing to see. With Pete Carmichael, he was the OC under Sean Payton for a few years, and so I think that we do get to see glimpses and spurts of what we saw under the Sean Payton offense and his schemes. I also do think that we'll get something different. We'll finally have a quarterback who can air it out. We'll have a quarterback who can, not crow hop and throw it 20 yards like Taysom Hill. I hate to say it. I love Taysom Hill. He's not a quarterback. He's a football player, not a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I'll live and die on that hill. That being said, Pete Carmichael, I think, could definitely have the potential to really be explosive and exciting with the weapons he has. Pending an Alvin Kamara suspension, there is that possibility.
Mm-hmm.
And even if he does get suspended, I trust the offensive coaches enough, and they brought in Cody Burns as well as a wide receiver coach, so you get some youth or some a new wide receiver coach in there as well to kind of rejuvenate and get some help going there. I think that there's definitely very high expectations. I would be very disappointed if we didn't make the playoffs. I think that they definitely should make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they should definitely win at least 10 games at a minimum. We won 9 games with the dumpster fire that we had last year.
Yep.
10 games is not too much to ask, you know.
You brought up Alvin Kamara. So what is the latest? I mean, that you're hearing locally with his situation, and then the other running backs, obviously Ingram and all of that. How is that going to shake out?
So as of the last thing I saw was court date got pushed back again to August 1st. If I had to take a guess, it's going to go, and this is, the very obvious, one of two ways. It's going to be either, a 4 to 6 game suspension. I don't think he's going to get suspended a season. Mm-hmm. I would be really surprised if it, like, I'm not saying he won't. And if I'm wrong, I'll be the first one to say I'm wrong, but I hate to say it. There's been other players who have done a lot worse and gotten a lot less. And I just don't think, I truly think it's one of those things. Maybe you get a 4-game suspension, 6-game suspension, could be a slap on the wrist, payout, on the, off field, whatever. But in terms of moving forward, Tony Jones Jr., he might get a little bit more, he might get a few more reps. Mark Ingram, obviously our running back too. Everybody loves him. He's great. He's old. Mm-hmm. He's not going to be the Mark Ingram that we know and loved from 2016, 2017, 2018. It's okay though. We have Abram Smith as a UDFA, who I am very, very, very excited about. I mean, this guy coming out of Baylor just was a beast. He started off as a linebacker, came in and got switched to a running back position. And so one of my favorite things, I love Alvin Kamara because he's shifty and he can, get around and he's very mobile and very quick. But I just have a thing, and I absolutely love when you can have a running back who can just put their head down and just run someone over. I mean, I think that at the end of the day, you got to have the shiftiness to get downfield. But if you want to get your 4th and 2, your 2nd and goal, and you want to punch it in, you got to give it to the big guy. Throw it in, and every time, if you can rely on him, that's great. And I'm excited to see what he could possibly do.
Yeah, I mean, especially in the playoffs, you need to have that aspect of the running game. And I'm going to have to, connect with Drew Davenport. I'm not sure if you're connected with him. He is, he's actually a lawyer, and he was weighing in on the Deshaun Watson stuff. And so that might be interesting to hear kind of why they kind of push these things back.
Yeah.
Because when you look at it, August, I mean, the NFL might not have much time to make a decision for him to be suspended. So he may not get that. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And I don't know why they would do that, because it's like, if it's me and I have something legal like that, I would want to kind of get it taken care of, get it moved on, and keep going, move on with whatever I'm doing, it's whatever the situation is. I would just want to get it and move forward with it. But I would actually be really interested to see what his thoughts are on that. That's interesting to think.
Yeah, you almost wonder if then they're trying to get settlements, and just kind of like
something under the rug, under the table kind of thing. Like I really hate to say it, and I don't ever, I don't ever want to like sound like if this is the right thing to do, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is just here's, settlement under the rug. We're good here. Cool. We're good. I mean,
it was so bizarre that they, that it happened. They knew it happened. They still let him play.
Yeah. That was the wildest part about that, because the story didn't come out till afterwards. So that was what was weird about that. So I remember I was sitting at work and we were just doing our thing. And I see on Twitter, Alvin Kamara this nonsense. And I was like, hold up, what? And I literally went and Googled all and started finding everything. And I was like, when did this happen? How did this happen? What is going on? What is like the full story? What is his side? What is the other person's side? What is like, I just don't know what to make of this. But then I was like, didn't he literally just play? And so I was like, of course, like it obviously didn't happen, the night before, because he wouldn't have been able to play. He would have been, in jail, or he would have been wherever, not been able, like taking that privilege away. But nope, they let him play. And I was like, this is weird. This is just weird. I don't know what to make of all of it. Honestly, I don't know. I think, like I said, 4 to 6 game suspension is the realistic, like you have to do something about it. I also wouldn't be that surprised if it's under the table kind of thing. I don't know, man. It's weird. That's one of those, just in other situations with players, there's a little bit more clarity and a little bit more stuff, but this is just like why'd you let him play if this is an issue? I don't know.
And you know, when you look at the Saints, I mean, he's going to be key to any type of playoff run. I mean, it seems like they will be able to kind of hold it together with all the other pieces and the defense and everything they have. But if they're going to make any type of serious run, they really need him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I couldn't agree more because, and if you look at successful teams in the playoffs, they are not two-dimensional. They are not pass and zone coverage. They can play all aspects of the game. They can perform well when they're running the ball. They can perform well in the pass game. They can perform well at the front on the offensive line. In the playoffs, at the end of the day, when it comes, I'd say even past week 10, you really need to have it, you need to have the gears in motion. You need to have it rolling. Otherwise, you're at risk of, getting beat by you might be the better team, but you might get beat by a team that has it rolling. The momentum is a real thing in sports, and it's a real thing in football. And, we always see these in March Madness, these teams go on these crazy runs and stuff. And, it's one of those situations of you have to have it all working, and Alvin Kamara has to be playing. And I think it is a big loss if he doesn't get to play for 4 to 6 games because, obviously he can work out or do whatever he needs to when he's not, on the field. But at the end of the day, he's not going to be getting game time snaps, getting game time reps, playing against other defenses. He's going to be, it's not the same, so I think having him miss some time is a definite big loss, and it could hurt, a few down the road more than we might initially realize,
Yeah, I mean, you saw that with the Packers. I mean, when AJ Dillon went down, I mean, that was a huge part of their offense, and then it really changed things. I mean, Aaron Jones is a great back, but what AJ Dillon was able to bring that offense, I mean, that really hurt them in the long run.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I really am excited to see how, like, there's three, actually, I'd say 3 UDFAs. I'm very, very excited to see what pans out. Smoke Monday is the obvious one. Coolest name in the NFL. He's going to be a beast, and he was a dog at Auburn. And I'm really excited for tight end Lucas Kroll out of Pitt. Fun fact, I actually found this out. He was a pitcher at Arkansas back in 2016, 2017 or something like that. So I was like, well, that's weird. I went to Arkansas, so I thought that was kind of cool. And then on top of that, Abram Smith. I'm just excited out of control to see what they can do because they're just exciting guys. They're young, and they're, it gives me the I don't know how to, like, the Marquise Colston and the Teron Armstead excitement of like, dude, these could be like long time great, additions. Like this is something like it just kind of works out perfectly. And right now, Darrell Williams just posted on his Instagram story actually that he was at the Superdome. So there is that. And he posted the other day that he was in New Orleans. He's from the area. He went to LSU, but he was in the area. He has family there, but he was in the area, and he was at the Superdome. So I don't know. Tinfoil hats on. I don't know what's going on, but I could see something maybe happening there. But also, if something doesn't, I would be totally okay with running it with Abram Smith and letting him get some reps. I'm not saying let him be the running back 1 or 2, but throw him in every once in a while because he has good receiving ability as well behind the line of scrimmage and on little short routes and stuff too. So I mean, I think it'd be fun to see what they can do.
Absolutely. Well, great stuff on that undrafted free agent stuff. I mean, because it is always interesting to see those players, come in because they almost have a hunger and fire that, some of these first rounders maybe don't have because they're trying to make the rosters.
Yeah, no, 100%. And like Marquise Colston out, I believe out of Marquette, I believe 7th round pick. And so even then, like late round pick, DeMarco Jackson and name is slipping me. They call it the Jackson brothers. Jordan Jackson, DeMarco Jackson, 5th and 6th round picks. Those are late round guys too. I could see having a very realistic and very right now effect. I'm not saying that they take snaps week 1, but the Saints defense is very rotational. Their defensive line is always moving and is always getting guys in and always switching guys in and out and stuff because it keeps them fresh. It keeps them going, keeps the schemes different. And that's the genius of Dennis Allen, and which is why I'm like really, really pumped. Because with that, the defense is not going to be that much different talent, different names and stuff, but the defense itself is going to be the same defense we all know and love. So you're getting these guys with Tyrann Mathieu, you're getting guys with Jordan Jackson, DeMarco Jackson that might be able to really get part of the rotation, realistically this season. And they could be really good additions and make plays. And I'm not just saying fill some space and let somebody get some, a breather. No, they could go out and make some plays. And I think that they have like a really, really good opportunity with this draft class and this UDFA class. I have not been more impressed with an offseason from the Saints in years. I truly can't. I don't even, I'd say the last time was the 2017 offseason when we brought in Emmanuel Sanders and brought back Malcolm Jenkins, excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, you look at who they brought in with Jarvis Landry, all the draft picks, but yeah, bringing in the Honey Badger.
Man.
Talk about kind of, I mean, is he still going to be able to perform at the high level, or is he kind of on the downturn?
So I think that he still is very able to perform at a high level. I mean, you can look at his stats over the past few years, and yeah, they have maybe a tiny bit dipped. But that being said, at the absolute bare minimum, regardless of if his stats or his production on the field dips, you get it. I'm not even talking about what he does as himself, like just him on the field. I'm talking about the whole defense entirely. He is a leader. He brings confidence. He brings energy. He brings swagger. He brings a dominant attitude. He brings a lot of different things to the defense that a lot of people aren't really thinking about, other than just raw talent of being a good football player. And you putting him in a phenomenal situation of being back in New Orleans and back with the Saints when they're playing in a very weak NFC right now. And he has the ability to come and make a big difference and really help out and slide in that safety position that Malcolm Jenkins, I can't say his name today. Malcolm Jenkins just retired from. And I think that the Honey Badger, I would be very, very surprised if he has a dip in production outside of maybe just a few tackles or a few things here and there because he's in a brand new team. Maybe the first few weeks he isn't, locked in, ready to go. But again, in his press conference, I remember him saying that he was waiting to come. He wanted to come to New Orleans and he was waiting because he wanted to come at the right time and he wanted to make sure he was ready to go. And so that to me speaks volumes. And I firmly believe at any point in time, Saints could have gone out and aggressively gotten him. And I wouldn't be surprised if they had in the past. I don't know, but here he is now. I think that he's going to be a dog. I think this defense is going to be one of the best ones in the NFC. And I can't express how much fun just as a fan alone having Tyrann Mathieu on the field is. I mean, again, not even from a perspective of he's going to be a damn good football player, just the culture and the energy and the fun that he's going to bring it's just going to be so exciting to see.
And he doesn't necessarily even have to be the guy. I mean, Marshawn Lattimore is kind of that guy, right?
Yeah, you get Marshawn Lattimore, and then he also brought in Marcus May very early in free agency, and so he'll play that free safety role. He is pending, I think, a possible suspension with like a DUI or something from carrying over from New York. Also, he had an Achilles injury that he was recovering from. So I think like with the idea there is, hopefully he's ready to go week one. Obviously, if he's not, they're not going to, the Saints won't rush him and let him get healthy. But when he plays, he's a very, very talented player. So like you said, though, with Marshawn Lattimore, yeah, that's going to, Marshawn Lattimore and CJ Gardner-Johnson, opposite sides, just running it. And you have the greatest trash talker of CJ Gardner-Johnson. You have Marshawn Lattimore, who does not take any sort of disrespect. And then you have Tyrann Mathieu, who is just a bona fide badass on the field. And you gotta see that defense and just be like, damn, like despite whoever they're playing, that's an intimidating team. That is a strong, and that they're going to play us hard and they're going to play us aggressive and they're going to be mean. They're going to be all up in our face the entire game. And that's what I love that kind of football. I love when they're, being a little aggressive, having a little too much fun, having a little, swagger on the field. It's a game. Have some fun with it. If you're taking it too serious all the time, yeah, you may win a bunch of games, but what's the fun in that? Have some fun, get out there, make the other team's game a living hell. Why not?
Absolutely. And you got Cam Jordan. I mean, when you look at this defense, I mean, if there was a weakness on the defense, what is the weakness?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest weakness is the linebacker spot. We have Demario Davis. He's a stud. He's going to be really, really good. I believe this year. I hope that he continues to still play well. Zach Bond, he's good. I personally think that re-signing Quan Alexander is a big move. I think if you re-sign Quan Alexander, I'm not saying that you're done and the defense is good to go and you never have to do anything but you re-sign Quan Alexander, and what else do you have to fill? You have your defensive line pretty much set, and those guys are always rotating. So it doesn't really matter if you have one defensive tackle on like the third line or on like the third whatever.
Rotation,
Rotation. Excuse me. Yeah, the third rotation. If he's underperforming, it's okay because they're always rotating. So you don't have to rely on him just to do well the entire game. So a linebacker, I think, is the biggest hole right now. And it's not even that huge of a hole. It's not like it's a dire need right this second, but re-sign Quan Alexander or re-sign Quan. I think then you're set, really. I don't see any other big moves you would have to make this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, so you look at the defense, it really is set. I mean, they seem to really carry the team last year. And when you look at the quarterback, I mean, we've touched on him a little bit. You seem to kind of like Jameis Winston's deep ball. Is he the guy that can kind of, lead this team to the championship?
Yeah. So if I had to say, is he going to take us to the Super Bowl? I can't confidently say yes. I don't think it's realistic for any Saints fan to say, yes, Jameis Winston's going to take us to the Super Bowl, because he hasn't been to the Super Bowl. He hasn't made it that far in his playoff runs. And that's okay. I mean, the Saints were kind of running the NFC South for those few years. So like, that's whatever, but I'm not saying that he can't do well, but I think that he certainly he could do what any other quarterback can do right now. He said it himself. I can do anything that your favorite quarterback can do. He can play very smart. He showed last year that he has improved his decision-making, and he's shown that maybe there was a LASIK eye surgery, but he didn't have his 30 for 30, or, even if it was 14 and 14, he was 14 and 3, like 14 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. That's pretty remarkable, I would say, in terms of, this guy threw 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions in one season. Like, that's a big jump, I would say. And it's not like he was playing with the greatest wide receiver talent in the wide world, in the whole wide world last year either. So I can't say, yes, Jameis Winston is 100% going to take us to the Super Bowl, because I couldn't even say that about Drew Brees last year, or a couple years ago. I couldn't say that about his last year. I was hopeful, and I was like, I know he can do it. I know he knows how to do it, but is he able to? The talent wasn't there, and it showed. It obviously showed. And that's not a knock on Drew or anything. It's just, he's old. Father time never loses unless it's Tom Brady. And I just think Jameis Winston has the best chance out of our options right now. I think that the Deshaun Watson not pursuing, or going after him, that was exciting and fun. And I hate to say it, but if you get a really young, talented quarterback that could be a franchise quarterback for you, that it says you're interested, why would you not explore it and go through the proper steps of making sure, like, okay, is this the right move or not? I don't at all blame the front office. I don't blame Gail Benson or Dennis Allen or Mickey Loomis for doing any of that. But what I will say is, I think that Jameis Winston is the best option we have. I don't think that bringing in Jimmy Garoppolo or trading for Baker Mayfield or Gardner Minshew is the right idea right now. I think that those guys, they're great. And I hate to say it, I think Baker definitely should be traded. He's not awful. He's not the greatest quarterback in the whole wide world. I'm not saying that, but he's better than Sam Darnold.
He is. Yeah.
There's that. I personally would rather have him than Jared Goff. Honestly, but again, and I'd rather have him than Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but I think Jameis Winston is the correct fit, because he also got to sit behind Drew Brees, and he got to sit under Sean Payton and learn and take a lot in under the year for a full season, and really soak up, the knowledge and the talent that they could offer.
Yeah, Jameis Winston, he's been such an interesting case in the NFL. I mean, so much talent, such a big personality, such a weird personality at times, but it seems like he's really kind of like, fit in with the New Orleans.
100%.
City.
Yeah, no, I mean, I couldn't really think of a quarterback that fits their city's culture better, just like off the top of my head. I know there is but right now, I mean, he's a goofball. He likes to have fun. He likes to make it exciting. He likes to have, be a party. He wants it to be a fun thing. It's his job, and he loves doing it. And I mean, his videos of his post game, man, I remember, I'll never forget what Coach told us. He always told us, I don't know. He said just to be prepared. Like, I mean, that's it's so funny, man. It's hilarious. And then he goes on NFL Network the other day. He's like, my passion, I always knew was football, but once I got taken away, I realized my passion was playing football. And I was like, yeah, no kidding, Jameis. Like, obviously, like, how could you not love him? He's just fun. He's exciting. And like, he's just a really fun culture piece to have. I mean, and Drew Brees, don't get me wrong, he was a phenomenal culture piece as well. But I think with him, you get the energy and excitement that you didn't necessarily get with Drew Brees because he was a little bit more reserved and, you know, conservative of like, I'm not going to be all out and, you know, doing crazy funny stuff and dancing around at practice and have these crazy training regimens. Like, no,
right.
Drew Brees was a little bit more business first, you know?
Well, you talked about Deshaun Watson, and you know I've talked to a couple of Saints fans and podcasters, and some were upset about them possibly going for him, and then I've also talked with some Cleveland Browns writers and podcasters, and some are still upset with them signing him, and there are a lot of Browns season ticket holders who are not renewing their tickets, and it's just interesting. So where do you sit with the Deshaun Watson pursuit?
So like I said, I don't blame them for doing their due diligence. I think that they did the right thing of looking and saying, is this worth going after? Is this worth making an offer? Is this worth making a realistic offer? I don't blame them for doing that whatsoever because like I said, you have a very young and talented quarterback, Deshaun Watson. Yeah, maybe he has all this stuff going on off the field, but you can't deny the fact that he's a good football player. That being said, I think that we stayed around in it too long. We stuck around in the hunt too long, I would say. I think that we could have definitely pulled our name out of the hat after, we sent them an offer and they were like, okay, well, let's see what the other one, like, no, we were ready to go. We were sent an offer. We were ready to hit it. Let's make it happen right this second. Come on, right now, back against the wall. Let's go. And they didn't. And so, oh, well, it didn't work out. I think it worked out for the better, in my personal opinion. We don't know if he's actually going to play. There's a lot of off-field things that have to get worked out. So it's, I'm glad that we did our due diligence because I think it would be silly not to at least be like, could it actually work? Like, because what if it could and we didn't even think about it? There is always that. But do I think that we played the game a little too long? Yes. I think that we should have definitely pulled out way sooner. And I think that it also might have rubbed Jameis the wrong way. I think with that, you could have really lost the opportunity to have Jameis go somewhere. Because at that time he wasn't re-signed yet. And I remember the Colts were having some rumors around him and possibly the Seahawks. No, not the Seahawks yet because they hadn't traded Russ. There was one other team. I can't remember. There was another team I saw some rumors with Jameis possibly being a quarterback fit. And I was like, I'm really nervous to lose him. And then whenever it was finally like, oh no, we're not going after Deshaun Watson. He's going to the Browns. It was like, okay, so like sign Jameis right this second, right? Like go get like, he's the one, make it happen right this second. It took a little bit, but they finally got him. And, I think it was all part of the, let's make this deal as good for you and as good for us as possible kind of thing, because it is a really team friendly deal. And it is a really, good deal for him as well, because there's a lot of incentives on the back end of it. There's a lot of, I can't remember the exact projections, but it's a 2-year, I want to say $28 million deal. I could be wrong on the price of that, but a 2-year deal. So he has this season with these tools to see if it works. And then it also, I also love this with the Jarvis Landry deal, the 1 year, $3 million base salary, $6 million contract. That also allows Jarvis to come back and get a new contract and possibly run it back with Jameis within them. And, also gives him the ability to get his stats up and maybe get a better contract on the free agent market next offseason if we don't want to bring him back. All these factors of cap space and stuff were great. But I think the Jameis Winston one is especially great because it gives us the opportunity to be like, all right, we have you this season. We trust you. You are the guy. There is no question about it. This is the first offseason we have since Drew Brees is gone that we've gone in knowing who our quarterback was. I mean, up until right before week 1, Sean Payton had a quarterback battle going between Jameis and Taysom Hill last year.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
uh, what do you see? I mean, that was just an interesting kind of battle there, and
Yeah.
obviously you said that Taysom Hill's not a quarterback. What do you see his role on this team then this year?
Yeah, so Dennis Allen and Pete Carmichael are going to use him as a tight end role. He's currently on the depth chart as a tight end 2 behind Adam Troutman, Adam Troutman, and that's per ESPN and Our Lads. And then, like, honestly, I would just, my personal opinion as well, I think he would be the behind him. I really, really like this move because, like I said, Taysom Hill isn't a quarterback. He is a dang good football player, though. The guy has blocked punts. The guy has returned kicks. The guy has blocked field goals. He has been on defense. He's been on offense. He's ran the ball. He's blocked. He's passed. He's done literally everything, I think, except for kick the ball. And I'm pretty sure that could actually happen too. And like, this frees him up to go and do those things and go be those roles and not have to worry about, I can't make, I'm not saying that he was maybe pulling up his, on when he was running and whenever he was, moving down the field, but he had the, I'm also the quarterback mindset too. So, when you're running downfield, you're not going to, if you're the quarterback, very rarely you're going to just lower your shoulder and run somebody over. But when you're a tight end, you will, you're going to get that extra yard if you need it. But I think with Taysom Hill this year, it's just another weapon. It's another piece because at the end of the day, I think his role is going to stay the tight end flex position. But like, let's be real. I would not be surprised. It's the Pete Carmichael offense under Sean Payton. We saw it work. We can't be surprised if we don't see Taysom Hill line up at quarterback and do some crazy trick plays. Yes, I'm all for that. Not for, 40 snaps a game. 3, 4, why not? Yeah, let's go. Let's make it. Let's shake it up. Let's have some fun. Let's make this the defensive coordinator's nightmare and make their life just miserable for the next hour, but not 40 snaps a game. He's a talented player. He runs hard, but he had injury issues last year. And I don't think that's something that we could, rely on at the quarterback position. And I'm really excited to see Taysom Hill also, maybe if Alvin Kamara, kind of relating it to earlier, maybe if Alvin Kamara has suspension, we know Taysom Hill has really good running ability. I'm not saying lines up as our running back, but you have Mark Ingram, Taysom Hill line up to get next to each other, Tony Jones Jr., Taysom Hill, or, Abrams. You have a 2 running back set right there. What could happen? I don't know. You have Jameis Winston, Taysom Hill, and Mark Ingram all right there. Who knows what could happen in the backfield? I mean, I think it would be a really, really neat thing to see I think it's going to be a really neat thing to see what happens with Taysom Hill this year. And I think that there's a lot of excitement to be had. And I think that we haven't really even seen the best of it. Like, I truly believe that we've seen here's what he can do. We know what he can do now. Now let's let him have some fun. I think that we now will really get to see, obviously, barring and hoping that he stays injury free. I hope that he stays healthy this season, because if he does miss time, that is a piece that might hurt a little bit.
Yeah, and we talk about even in a team level, but fantasy football, he's going to be an interesting player to watch.
Oh yeah,
well.
Definitely. No, I remember it was the one weekend that I picked him up, and it was the one weekend he was like the quarterback, but he was like a tight end on the fantasy thing, and he went for like 40 points or something. And I was nuts. Like, oh, it was the greatest thing in the world. So like, I hate to say it, but I'm not saying by any means don't go and draft Taysom Hill in your first 5, 10. I wouldn't even draft him if it's me. Don't even draft him. Pick him up on the waivers though if he starts doing good. If you see his first couple of weeks, he has some fun and he manages to do well. Pete Carmichael's kind of a creature of habit, and if he sees something that works, he's not going to try and fix it. So I think from a fantasy perspective, I wouldn't waste a draft pick on him, but I think that he would be a very big steal on the waiver wire, 100%. That's a name that I'm going to be looking out for throughout the offseason.
Absolutely. And, moving into the season then, when you look at this team, they were so close to the playoffs. I mean, what are your expectations this year? And then what are some NFC teams that worry you the most?
So expectations, I said earlier, expectation playoffs. Playoffs have to be made. If we do not make the playoffs, we failed this season. I don't think that is an unrealistic expectation. I don't think that's an unrealistic ask as a fan and as somebody who looks at it and like as an analyst perspective. We got immensely better. The Saints roster is leaps and bounds better than this season than it was last season. And yeah, we don't have Sean Payton. Yeah, this whole Drew Brees return rumor is kind of fun and exciting to talk about, and it makes for some fun content. He's not coming back. Let's be real. He's not coming back.
And you probably don't want him back either.
No, man. Like, I don't. He's a legend. He did what he needed to do. I wish he could have gotten one more Super Bowl. Don't get me wrong. I would love to get him back for one more Super Bowl, and I wish he could have gotten that second one. But he's 43 years old. He just had another shoulder surgery. Excuse me. He's a year removed from now 2 off seasons removed from the league. He already was on, his production was dipping drastically over the last 3 seasons. And you can look at it just from the percentages in the yards per game and stuff. It just dropped almost every week. And, at the end of the day, I love Drew Brees, but it's time to move on. That's what makes having a legend like that so great, because it makes you value the time you have with him so much more. And I think it would just hurt his legacy. I really do. I think it would hurt his what he created if he came back being a legend in New Orleans, if he came back and tried to run it back no, man, come back as a coach, 100%. Come back and be a quarterback coach. Absolutely. Work in the front office. Definitely be on the coaching staff. By all means, I will be the first to welcome you with open arms.
Well, yeah,
not put on pads.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Peyton Manning's last year, and he really got absolutely saved by that defense.
Yeah,
he was just a shell of himself.
Yeah, and our defense, I'm not saying is going to do that and will take us to the Super Bowl. But it's not that. That's not the case. It's different teams, different situations. It's weird. That being said, I can see why people are like, oh my gosh, it could, like you said, the Peyton Manning, he doesn't have to be the MVP caliber player he once was. He can just come in and be really good and just be, get it done and be the leader, and it'll be okay. And the defense no, you can't rely on the defense to bail you out. Look what happened last season. Look what happened. I mean, I remember sitting here in January with no football to watch as a Saints fan and being like, thankfully, I don't have football to watch because it would have been embarrassing. I hate to say it would have been embarrassing.
Yeah.
It truly would have been. But playoffs is a must. I think 10 wins. I would say 12 wins is good, but 10-11 is 100% what I expect. But I think it could get as high as 13-14. I don't think that's out of the question. I mean, I'm gonna pull up the Saints schedule really fast because I forgot to pull it up. But
yeah, I mean, when you look at this, when you look at the NFC, it's a lot more wide open for a team to kind of take control. I mean, obviously, the Bucks, when you have one of the best quarterbacks ever, and in Tom Brady, or even with the Packers and Aaron Rodgers, people are, especially in the preseason, are going to give the team the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
When you look at the Bucks, I mean, we'll see what they really are. I mean, they've got some great pieces. Not having AB, that's going to be interesting. Not having Gronk is going to be interesting.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. They lost some holes on lost some guys on defense too, just free agency, retiring and stuff. I mean, the Bucks, don't get me wrong, they're still a damn good team. They're still going to be a really, really good football team. When you have Tom Brady on your football team, you're going to be good. It does not matter who else is on the team. You're going to be good. But we've owned the Buccaneers the past few years. Ever since Tom Brady's come to New Orleans or to Tampa Bay, it hadn't been a problem for New Orleans outside of one game in the playoffs. And unfortunately, it was the one game that mattered. But we managed to do all right now. We got a lot better. I wouldn't say that the Bucks got worse. I would say that they filled some holes with this offseason that opened up, and I don't think that they got. I may have gotten a little bit better, a little younger, but I don't think that they got extremely more talented. I look at the Saints and I think that they had a significantly better offseason. I mean, especially considering we were $76 million over the cap at one point, and now we are 6 million under or 9 million under.
It's just crazy how teams do that.
Yeah, the salary cap is such a myth. I refuse to acknowledge the fact that it's a real thing. It's unbelievable. But yeah, no, I think that 10-11 wins, playoffs has to happen. Chris Olave, 1,000 yards would be pretty cool to see. I'd love to see him get some offensive rookie of the year love. That would be pretty neat.
So yeah, we talk about these receivers and living in Wisconsin, the big thing is what Christian Watson's going to do. But sometimes, I mean, I think we were spoiled, obviously, by what Jamar Chase did.
Yeah.
We were spoiled
Yeah.
by that because
Yeah.
when you look at rookie wide receiver, it takes a lot for most of these receivers to kind of get into a groove. And
Yeah.
with Jamar Chase, it really helped to have that connection already
Mhm.
with Joe Burrow from
Yeah,
college
they have
days.
the chemistry there. I mean,
Mhm.
that's a big thing, and I don't think that the chemistry aspect of football gets talked about enough, and
Mhm.
not just running back to or quarterback to receiver. Like in all aspects. I think safety or in the linebacker being able to communicate with anybody on the field, that's having good chemistry. The teams that win in January and in February have great chemistry. That is the one thing that every single one of those teams has in common. They all know how to talk and communicate on the field. They know where each other are at all times. They know what they can do. They trust they're the guy to drop back in coverage if they need to, if they're going to pursue and maybe step up. Their receiver the quarterback can just put the ball where they know the receiver might be, because they know that they can put it on this shoulder and that's where it's going to go. The running back knows that whenever they pitch, it's going to be right here and I can just bolt and I can just make my step. The lineman knows that I don't have to worry about my right guard, because the center, as a center, I don't have to worry about my right or my left guards and tackles, because I know that they're going to be moving back and covering this guy who comes around this. There's so much of a chemistry aspect that doesn't get talked
Mhm.
about. And I think that that's a really cool thing with Michael Thomas and Chris Olave,
Mhm.
obviously having that Ohio State pipeline. And in Chris Olave, it said in one of his rookie minicamp interviews that they didn't overlap and stuff, but they were in contact. They talked and stuff. I mean, he played very well at Ohio State. Obviously, you're gonna talk with other receivers,
Oh yeah.
So they have a connection. They're already working out together. I think having them line up opposite of each other is going to be exciting. I think it's going to be really cool. And even if Michael Thomas does kind of stay inside or, stay on some shorter routes and stuff, if he does stay by the slant boy nickname, then, at the end of the day, I will say also part of that is because Drew Brees couldn't throw the ball 40 yards. That's, we're not going to acknowledge that, but I think
So
part of slant boy was because Drew Brees couldn't throw the ball downfield.
oh, Michael Thomas, that was
Yeah.
his nickname, Slant Boy. Okay.
Yeah, well, that's a lot of people nicknamed him Slant Boy because
Yeah.
he has all those catches and all those yards and all these great accolades, but he did it on running a lot of slants and a lot of short routes and stuff. But also, let's acknowledge the fact that he still did all of that despite running maybe a lot of slant routes. But whatever, still really impressive player.
Right.
But I think that Chris Olave and Michael Thomas will be a really cool dual threat thing that receivers opposite of each other that will really open up the offense and really open up the downfield stretching ability with Olave, and maybe that mid shorter range with Thomas. And then you also add Jarvis Landry to the mix, and then you have just your guy, crud, dink and dunk right there, my slot guy. He's not going to go down because he refuses to go down and because he's a hard-nosed runner. That alone is going to tack on an extra 4 yards.
Yeah. So I was just kind of looking at the schedule too. It's going to be an interesting stretch in October. I mean, you're starting with Cincinnati, you got the Cardinals, Raiders,
Yeah, that's so
Ravens. Yeah.
I think that October to mid-November, I really don't think they start off pretty soft or pretty good. We start off really not light, I would say, but interesting, playing the Falcons, Bucks, and Panthers week 1, 2, 3. I think that's interesting. It makes the second half of the season that much crazier because you're kind of have the bona fide leader of the AFC, like the certified leader of the NFC South, right then and there after week 3. So I think that's kind of cool. But then you got the week 4 game with the Vikings in London, which will be that'll be neat. That's always something cool. It stinks that it's at 8:30 in the morning because that's early, but I think it's still cool to see our team getting to go travel overseas and play in London. I think that's neat. But then you have the stretch of the Bengals and the Raiders and the Steelers and the and the Cardinals and the Raiders, or the Ravens and the Rams and the Niners, and we all know that second half of the season, some of those teams are good. Some of those teams really know how to make it work. The Raiders, I could confidently say first half of the season last year, I was like, they're not even going to make the playoffs. This team is a joke, dude. They're not good. This is not going to happen. And then they managed to make the playoffs and play well. And, obviously lost to the Bengals. That was, the Bengals having their year because wow, that was wow. But Yeah, it's gonna this schedule is, I think it's tough, but I think it's a good test. I think it's a cool, like a really good. It's not like a cupcake schedule. You get to play, the Seahawks and the Browns and the with all these in the Panthers. Like, well, I mean, obviously the Panthers could play them twice, but you don't have to play all these teams that really don't have much going for them right now. I mean, I guess you could say we do because we play the Falcons and the Panthers twice a year, and those two teams are, that's just not, that's not happening. Nothing's happening there.
Nope.
No, not for a year or two. But I also think that we have like a tough AFC schedule. We have we do have to play the Seahawks, which they won't be that great, but whatever. But we do have to play the Niners and we do have to play the Rams, and down the stretch, maybe there's been rumors that it seems like it's going to be OBJT to the Rams or the Saints. That seems what it's the most likely outcome. And then maybe the Cowboys possibly, but like the Cowboys didn't get better. I think they got worse this offseason.
Yeah,
I think the Eagles, that's going to be a tough game. I think that is going to be a hard game because they got better. I think the Eagles have had the best offseason this year, and it's what they did was incredible. And I know a lot of Eagles fans were very upset and were ready to jump ship on Howie Roseman, but I think this offseason might have bought him a year or two at least. But this is just a weird year of the AFC is just so talented and the NFC is so not. Like, what's going to happen with it? I don't know.
Yeah. What's interesting. I mean, there are a lot of interesting games. I mean, you'll see with that big stretch, in October, November, but a really intriguing game. Obviously, by Christmas Eve, Deshaun Watson should be playing, right? And
that will be fun.
That'll be an
interesting one.
Yeah,
because I think that's also like the Browns are one of those teams that it's like you look at the roster and you look at the team and they're a good team. Like they have talent. They're not the win 1-2 games Browns that we all know and love. They're a solid football team right now. They're in a very tough division. They, have the Bengals now to deal with as well, because they're not, a cakewalk or a doormat team anymore. So, there is a little bit of like I'm really excited for the Bengals game. I'm really excited for the Browns game because those two games are like two very new and fresh, exciting, fun teams to play. But then we have our right now new, fresh, exciting feel playing against them. And so like, I just think it's going to be exciting. I think it's going to be cool. And with Deshaun Watson, I'm not saying I don't want to make a comment or a take on any of that, but I hope that I hope that he's playing that week for the sake of, I would love to see that matchup of team I almost went to versus team that I did go to, because I have this theory that some of that was a little bit smoke and mirrors of trying to get the Browns to cough up, the guaranteed money bag, not just the, I want the bigger contract. I think that was a little bit of a maybe smoke and mirror move, maybe, but
it worked. Yeah.
It worked for him. Yeah, absolutely. It worked for him. So, I mean, just for that reason alone, I really want to see him play because I want to see, I hate to say it, I want to see our defense, get a little bit of revenge on him, let him have Jameis's back. Let him say, this is my quarterback. This is who we're riding with. I think that's going to be a really fun one. I'm also actually really excited for the Steelers game too, because Kenny Pickett, I'm interested to see how he does. And what week is that? That is right.
Week 10.
Week 10. Yeah. So that's about the midway point of the season. And, he won't be, by then you would think he would have his kind of first couple week rookie, kinks out. By then you'd think he'd be at least moving a little bit more fluidly, but really good, talented defense with versus a young quarterback under great coaching staff and under a great team with, a lot of up and coming promise. They're not, I don't think that they're a lot better than they have been. They obviously lost Juju, which hurts, but they're still a talented football team. There is that. And so I think that's going to be a fun one too, to see how he does being the only quarterback taken in the first round, see how he plays against, another solid defense. And I don't know the Steelers schedule off the top of my head, but I mean, I want to see how he plays against, these top defenses, because the whole Malik Willis stuff and the Desmond Ridder and the Matt Corral and all these guys falling and stuff when they were supposed to go round one or not make it out of the top 10. And then you get Malik Willis taken in the fourth. Like,
Tell you what, if someone with the Steelers organization, how they've got the foam fingers.
Yeah.
If someone doesn't make a really small foam
Oh,
finger for Kenny Pickett,
yeah.
they're missing the boat.
Just like a little tiny one.
Like a
That would
little
be
tiny one. Yeah.
so good. That's a missed opportunity. And I think that the Steelers wouldn't have the stones to do that. So like one of the rival franchises in the division
Oh,
has to do it. And I think that would be hilarious.
I'm
That
gonna,
would be
I'm gonna,
really
yeah, we'll try to spread that with the some other podcasts and get
yeah,
that
that would
going.
be good. That would be really funny. But that I'm really actually looking forward to the season. I think I'm curious as to your takes on it. I know I talked a lot, but I'm really excited to see how the AFC
Mhm.
pans out. Obviously a lot of talent moved there in very weird ways. But, I also think that this is a exciting time. Oh, and also I forgot to mention with that Cardinals game, I
Yeah.
believe that that's going to be the first week DeAndre Hopkins is back from his suspension. So,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
so we'll see. We'll see if that will be. We'll see if he'll have a bounce back or see if he'll be a little rusty. So there is that to mention. But no. But anyway, I'm excited to see how the season goes, and I'm curious what you kind of think. What the AFC and the NFC just. How do you think
Ye
it's going to pan out?
Yeah, it's so interesting because a lot of people are, picking the Packers, and even with the defense, or sorry, with Aaron Rodgers,
Mhm.
last year, and how well the defense did, and everything. I went ahead in playoffs, and I was like, yes, I'm all in on the Packers. I thought they were going to win,
Mhm.
but for whatever reason, Rodgers just doesn't have it when it matters most,
Yeah.
and he focuses so much on Devontae Adams. So I think the Packers are you know. Overconfident. Packers fans are overconfident. I went on our Freezing Four podcast and I said,
Mhm.
maybe the Packers only win 8 games, and
I
obviously, no,
I don't I can't disagree. I can't disagree with you. I hate to say it, but I
there's a
mean,
lot
I
of
no,
tough games in there. So,
yeah, they play tough games. They play
yep.
tough teams, and I hate to say it, not a knock on Christian Watson, but he's not Devontae Adams.
Well, and Devontae Adams wasn't even Devontae Adams
Yeah,
until like 3 years
yeah.
in. So,
So it's like,
yep.
I that's I don't, and especially on top of the Packers, just kind of to take a little bit of a quick tangent. Also, with all of the weird like behind the scenes stuff of like Aaron
Yes.
Rodgers having some drama with the front office and then wanting to maybe retire and then maybe go do Jeopardy. And like that whole thing alone is just so weird to me too. So I'm like, man, like it's just, I don't think I couldn't agree more. I don't think the Packers are going to 10 wins is a big ask, I would say, for them this
It
year.
is, and I'm thinking the Vikings. I'm actually picking the Vikings to win that division.
I can
It's
see
going to
that.
be an interesting game with the Saints there in
Yeah.
London. Um, you know, our Vikings guy is not as high on them, but that's kind of like the Vikings mentality. They just,
Yeah.
always seem to kind of, not make it, especially with Kirk Cousins.
Yeah. I think if they got rid of Captain Kirk, get a good court, like drafting Kellen Mond was such a bad move. Like you knew that wasn't going to work out. Like
Mhm.
you'd save that pick, get something in like a best player available kind of thing, and draft a quarterback next year. Like I think that they would be a team that's should be interested in like this upcoming draft, looking and trading up for picks to draft a quarterback. Not in terms of let's replace Kirk Cousins right now because you just paid him a lot of money and
Yep.
whatever. He still plays all right, but you might as well give them a little competition. Be like, we will cut you or trade you right now. Like we have no
Mhm.
problem making sure you don't play again. I think that's in the best interest of that team.
You talk. I mean, so like on AFC, I'm Bills all the way.
Yeah.
So, but then on the NFC, I even before the AJ Brown trade, I was on Jalen Hurts taking the next step and possibly being an MVP conversation. So
A
I
dark
think
horse,
that
definitely.
the Eagles can take a step up. I like the Raiders this year on the AFC, but yeah, I mean
hmm
the NFC, there really is a path for the Saints. If Jameis, really does, step up, I
hmm
like them. I just don't know about the Rams, if
Yeah.
they're going
Are
to
they going to be hungover still from that Super Bowl? That's my thing. Are they going
right.
to?
And they've got the players there. You just don't know what you have with the Cardinals, especially without Hopkins.
Yeah.
49ers, you're not sure about Trey Lance.
Well, yeah. I hate to say it. I know a lot of 49ers fans, and I'm not going to call them out by name, but they are like Trey Lance he is the future. He is it. He is the man. And
Mhm,
I hate to
mhm.
say it, but I worked on our 49ers show and I watched some of those 49ers games. and I did not see a thing that impressed me. Let me take that back. I did not see a lot that impressed me. I thought he had showed, glimpses of talent. He showed glimpses of energy and being able to bring something new to the offense. But I personally wasn't all that impressed with Trey Lance. And with the whole Debo thing and with everything going on with they've literally done nothing this offseason. So it's like, I don't know what's happening there. That's just a weird situation team as well. Like, what are they going to do with Jimmy G? Like,
you look at the NFC. I mean, it's hard to really look at the Cowboys and see, mainly because of coaching. I just don't know what they are. But yeah, it's so hard to pick because I want to say Jalen Hurts kind of makes that next step. With what they've done with AJ Brown, I think they could definitely get there. I see the Vikings, as far as getting in the playoffs, I don't see them, doing much in the playoffs. The Bucks are probably going to be there because of Tom Brady. The Saints are going to be there. I really this might be an interesting pick. I do think the Saints have that opportunity to get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean,
when you look at their defense and everything.
When you look at the teams that will be deep in the playoffs, obviously, like you said, you'll have like the Vikings and maybe the Rams and maybe the Eagles. The Eagles will likely win the NFC East, but maybe you get like the Cowboys sneak in or something like that. That you'll get one team that'll sneak in weirdly, like that just always happens. But looking at the teams that will be in the divisional round and the AFC championships, there's not a definite team that I'm like, they are a lot better than the Saints. The Packers, yeah, they have Aaron Rodgers, cool, but he doesn't know how to win after the divisional round. That's been proven year and year and year and year and year after again, and probably forever.
Their defense is better.
Their defense is definitely better. But I just until I see him win in the playoffs more than one round, then I have no reason to believe the Saints can't beat them. And let's look at what they did last year, week 1. Smoked them. And again, it was week 1, whatever. But
you got to be ready for every game.
Yeah, it was week 1. We went to Green Bay and played you. And also this was all while like hurricane stuff was happening in New Orleans. So like there was just I completely forgot about that, but just nodding back again to like how ridiculous last season was for the Saints and still managed to go 9-8. No, that this team is significantly better. Hopefully there's not all these crazy issues of, things that we can't control. And hopefully everyone stays healthy. That healthy team, I don't see a better team in the NFC that is right now outright 100% better.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason I would pick another team over them would be the Buccaneers, and that's because of Tom Brady.
Yeah.
I mean, and I can see Tom Brady going to the Super Bowl, win or lose, that's it, and then he's done.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think that the Bucs are that team that we play them, maybe, but like also, who knows what can happen? It's the playoffs. But that's the team that I would say they would beat us definitely because Tom Brady knows how to win in the postseason, and that is about as apparent. That's about as obvious as saying the sky is blue. And so,
well,
the Rams, no, like the Packers, no, the Cowboys, definitely not. Like.
And the Eagles, I think they're going to take a step up, but I just don't see them Super Bowl worthy yet.
Yeah, no, and that's the big thing is yet. I think that is that team I think will have the biggest leap of overall just talent across the board. I think that they absolutely knocked it out of the park in the draft, getting Nakobe Dean in the third. Like, oh my gosh, that was a steal. Which it makes me wonder why he fell that far from injury stuff, but like. He says he's good. He says he's fine. And the team says he's fine. But it's like, but then why'd you fall?
Right.
What's really happening? I don't know. So, but regardless, the Eagles got a lot better this year. And I think it's going to be a really, really exciting matchup because I think that's, depending on what they do with Jameis Winston, that could be like for the next couple of years, that could be the 2 top dog teams playing. This could be like the first oh my gosh, like fully complete. Like the Eagles have beat us the past couple of years, and that's not a knock on the Saints, but the Eagles played really well. Like, don't get me wrong, Jalen Hurts played well those games, and I think, like you said, he could make a big step, and I think he could do things to really shake things up in the NFC as a whole. And that's also what I see with Jameis Winston and the Saints, and also Justin Fields. I think he could do that too.
I'm excited for what the Bears have in store. I'm really
excited for Justin Fields. I think just as a overall move, just like the front office, like all of it, not just the players, but Matt Nagy getting Ryan Poles out of there. I mean, I think that's this great move, great things, and I think Justin Fields is like getting set up for long-term success.
I agree, and I try to be a realistic and honest Bears fan, and I think there's a lot of ranges, win loss. They could win only 4 games, or they could win 8 to 9, who knows? I'm okay with either one of those or any of those outcomes, because I think they're just too many pieces away this year. 2023 is going to be really the year. Hopefully they can get some. Maybe a top receiver in the draft, maybe sign someone in 2023 to really, complete that
definitely.
team.
Definitely.
I like what they did in the draft. They needed to do that with, solidifying the secondary. So I think as a fan, number one, you want to go into a season knowing that you've got a chance to win. If you don't have that, number two, you want to know that your team is setting themselves up for long-term success. And I know we wouldn't have number one unless Justin Fields takes a huge leap, which could happen, but not necessarily likely. But number two, we are there. I like what they've done in the front office, and they hadn't really done much of that in the past. Now they've got a general manager and assistant general manager. Before, it was just a mess, and so I like what they're doing long term. At least the plan, and at least they have a plan.
So like, do you have high expectations for Darnell Mooney with Justin Fields this season, or is it kind of the similar to the Saints fans of like, I don't know if he can be like Traquan Smith is not a wide receiver 1. Is it kind of a similar mindset with Darnell Mooney, just has coming from your perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't see him as number one. I like his mindset though, because he sees himself that way. I still think they do need, a bigger receiver. He's a small, shifty one. They need a bigger receiver.
They need some beef on the receiving side.
So,
you got to have some. I think Bears, honestly, it wouldn't hurt to maybe go try and pursue DK. That would actually be like a banging move on their end if they do. Because depending on the cap space, I think that could be like a really good late free agency or not free agent, but trade. Maybe go try and get him, or maybe get him on free agency in a couple of years.
In a couple of years, 2023, I can see him doing that. They've got a ton of cap space in 23, and so they've got so much dead cap money this year. It just didn't make sense. They've got so much, so it didn't make sense to do that. It didn't make sense to try to trade up. That would have been a former regime move, and so I'm glad they accumulated picks and they did what they needed to do.
No, this was a definite reload. Like, we're cocking it back because we know once we pull the trigger, the hammer's going to hit and it's going to hit hard. And that's it's going to happen next season. I mean, like you said, you're going to have a ton of cap space. You're going to have a ton of, a lot more draft capital and stuff. And so like, obviously you lost a bunch to get Justin Fields. And I think that was the best move that could have been made because as we saw, this draft class quarterbacks was not good. Next year's is better, but we don't know how many of them are going to be that great. Like just off the top, it's CJ Stroud, Bryce Young. It's really all you can really name.
And they're pretty short too. So they're
Well, I think the Bears are exciting. I'm just I think the Bears are doing a lot to just like set themselves up with Justin Fields around him to move forward. And I think that's the better move, the best move that they've made in a very long time.
Absolutely. Well, this has been fantastic. I definitely appreciate you taking your time today.
I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. Where can everyone find you again?
So you guys can follow me on Twitter at Trace Girouard 48. That's also my Instagram handle. Follow me there. I post Saints stuff, general memes, and NFL, fun content. And then also YouTube. I work at Chat Sports, Saints Now on YouTube, by Chat Sports on YouTube. check us out. I'm a producer and content creator and Redacted Radio, or anywhere you get your podcast. It's an entertainment podcast I do with a couple buddies. Feel free to hit us up, show us some love, show some support. But man, I'd like to thank you for having me on. It's been a lot of fun. I would love to do it again sometime, maybe part of the way through the season or something.
Let's plan on.
Absolutely.
Well, once again, this has been NFL Outdated Cover 2 series on the New Orleans Saints. And thanks again, Trace.
Appreciate you.